The Psychology of Wealth: How to Master Your Money. Written and published by Mindset Masters Audiobooks. Understanding the Real Game of Money. Most people believe money is about numbers. Income, expenses, saving, investing. But wealth is not created in spreadsheets. It is created in the mind. Two people can earn the same income, live in the same city, and have access to the same opportunities, yet one builds lasting wealth while the other stays trapped in financial stress for life. The difference is not intelligence. It is not luck. It is not even discipline alone. It is psychology. Your financial results are a reflection of how you think, what you believe, what you tolerate, and how you emotionally respond to money. Long before money ever reaches your hands, it has already passed through your mind. And if your mind is not trained to handle it, money will never stay with you. This book is not about getting rich quickly. It is about becoming the kind of person money works for. Because money does not reward effort. It rewards alignment between thinking, behavior, patience, and decision-making. If you do not master your inner world, money will expose every weakness you have. Why hard work alone never creates wealth. You were likely taught a dangerous lie. If you work hard, everything will work out. Hard work without psychological control leads to exhaustion, not wealth. Millions of people work harder than the wealthy ever have. They wake early. They sacrifice. They struggle. Yet they remain broke, anxious, and dependent. Why? Because hard work multiplies who you already are. If your mindset is untrained, hard work simply accelerates financial mistakes. Wealthy people do not just work. They think differently under pressure. They delay gratification longer. They separate emotions from decisions. They understand risk instead of fearing it. They view money as a tool, not a measure of self-worth. Poor financial outcomes are rarely caused by lack of income. They are caused by emotional spending, short-term thinking, fear-based decisions, impulse behavior, avoidance of responsibility, identity-level money beliefs. Until those are corrected, more money will not help you. It will hurt you. Your money identity is running your life. Every person has a money identity, a deep internal story about who they are in relation to money. Some people unconsciously believe, money never stays with me. I'm bad with finances. Rich people are greedy. I'll deal with money later. I don't deserve abundance. These beliefs operate silently, yet they control behavior with absolute authority. You will always act in a way that confirms your identity, even when it hurts you. If you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will subconsciously avoid long-term planning, sabotage savings, undervalue your skills, delay investing, make emotional purchases for comfort. Your external results cannot rise above your internal identity. That is why mastering money begins with mastering self-image. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you become congruent with. Emotional money decisions, the invisible enemy. Most financial mistakes are emotional, not logical. People overspend not because they lack knowledge, but because they seek relief. They avoid budgeting because it triggers discomfort. They delay investing because fear feels safer than uncertainty. They stay broke because familiarity feels less threatening than growth. Money activates powerful emotions. Fear of loss. Desire for status. Shame. Comparison. Anxiety. Greed. If you do not learn to regulate these emotions, money will control you, even if you earn more. Wealthy individuals are not emotionless. They are emotionally disciplined. They feel fear but do not obey it. They feel excitement but do not rush decisions. They feel pressure but remain strategic. Financial mastery requires emotional mastery. The long-term advantage most people reject. Wealth is built slowly, predictably, and deliberately, which is exactly why most people never achieve it. The human brain is wired for immediacy. It wants rewards now, comfort now, relief now. Wealth requires the opposite. Patience over impulse. Consistency over intensity. Strategy over emotion. Delay over indulgence. Those who master money understand one simple truth. Small decisions repeated daily matter more than big decisions made occasionally. Skipping one impulsive purchase matters. Investing regularly matters. Thinking in decades matters. Most people want financial transformation without psychological transformation. That never works. Responsibility is the gateway to wealth. The moment you fully accept responsibility for your financial life, everything changes. Not blame. Responsibility. Blame keeps you stuck. Responsibility gives you power. When you stop saying, "The economy is bad. Opportunities are limited. I wasn't taught this. Others have advantages," and start saying, "My choices matter. My habits shape outcomes. I can learn. I can adapt." You move from victimhood to agency. And agency is where wealth begins. Every financially successful person reached a moment where they stopped waiting to be saved and started building systems that protect their future self. Money is a mirror. Money reveals who you are under pressure. If you are impatient, money exposes it. If you avoid responsibility, money punishes it. If you chase validation, money disappears. But if you are disciplined, strategic, and emotionally grounded, money compounds quietly in your favor. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems and beliefs. This book will not teach you tricks. It will rewire how you think about money at the deepest level, because once the psychology is right, the strategy becomes obvious. The foundation you are building right now. This first part is about awareness. About seeing the invisible forces shaping your financial life. Before income grows. Before investments work. Before discipline becomes natural. Your thinking must change. You are not here to chase money. You are here to become someone money trusts. And that transformation starts now. Scarcity thinking, the invisible cage most people live in. Scarcity is not a lack of money. Scarcity is a way of thinking. You can increase income and still think poor. You can earn more and remain trapped. You can touch opportunity and sabotage it, all because scarcity thinking shapes how you interpret reality. Scarcity thinking sounds like, "I have to grab this now before it's gone. What if I lose everything? This is too risky. I'll start later when things feel safer. People like me don't get ahead." This mindset keeps people busy but never wealthy. Active but never free. Scarcity makes you reactive. It forces short-term decisions. It narrows your vision until survival becomes your only goal. And when survival is the goal, wealth is impossible. Wealth requires space in the mind. Space to plan. Space to delay. Space to think beyond today's pressure. Scarcity collapses that space. How scarcity is programmed into you. Scarcity is learned early. It often comes from growing up where money caused stress, hearing arguments about bills, watching adults panic over expenses, being told money is hard to come by, seeing opportunities framed as rare or dangerous. Your nervous system learned to associate money with danger long before you understood numbers. So now, as an adult, your body reacts before your logic does. You might know investing is smart, but your chest tightens. You might know saving matters, but spending feels relieving. You might know long-term thinking wins, but urgency feels safer. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. And what is conditioned can be reconditioned. Why more money doesn't fix a scarcity mindset. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about wealth. People think, if I just made more money, I'd finally relax. But the opposite often happens. More money with a scarcity mindset leads to bigger fears, larger emotional swings, more impulsive decisions, higher lifestyle pressure, increased anxiety about loss. That's why some high earners live paycheck to paycheck. That's why lottery winners go broke. That's why sudden income often disappears. Money magnifies your psychology. It does not correct it. If scarcity lives in your thinking, money becomes something you cling to or burn through, never something you build with. Abundance thinking is not blind optimism. Abundance is not pretending everything will work out. Abundance is strategic calm. It is the belief that opportunities can be created, skills can be learned, capital can be rebuilt, losses can be recovered. Time favors those who prepare. Abundance thinking allows you to wait. It allows you to say no. It allows you to walk away from bad deals. It allows you to invest when others panic. Abundant thinkers are not reckless. They are patient. They understand that money flows toward value, consistency, leverage, long-term positioning, and they align their behavior accordingly. The psychological difference between earners and builders. Most people are earners. Earners trade time for money. Builders create systems that generate money without constant effort. But the difference is not intelligence. It's psychology. Earners think, how much does this pay now? Is this safe? What if it doesn't work? I'll do it when I feel ready. Builders think, does this scale? Does this compound? What skills does this build? What does this look like in 5 years? Earners seek certainty. Builders accept uncertainty in exchange for leverage. And leverage is the foundation of wealth. Why the brain resists wealth-building behavior. Your brain is designed for survival, not wealth. It prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth. Short-term comfort over long-term reward. Certainty over possibility. That's why saving feels restrictive. Investing feels risky. Delayed gratification feels uncomfortable. Learning new financial skills feels overwhelming. Your brain interprets change as danger. So when you try to build wealth, resistance appears, not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Understanding this changes everything. You stop labeling resistance as laziness or failure. You see it as a signal to slow down, structure better, and train consistency. Wealth is not built by fighting your psychology. It is built by working with it. Time perspective, the hidden advantage of the wealthy. One of the strongest predictors of financial success is time horizon. People who think short-term live short-term lives. People who think long-term quietly dominate. Wealthy thinkers ask, what decision today helps me 5 years from now? What habit compounds even when I'm tired? What am I building that survives mood and motivation? Short-term thinkers ask, what feels good now? What's easiest? What's urgent? The market rewards patience. Life rewards consistency. Money rewards those who respect time. Emotional control beats financial knowledge. You can read every finance book and still lose money. Because knowledge does not control behavior, emotion does. Fear makes people sell at the worst time. Excitement makes people buy at the top. Ego makes people ignore risk. Shame makes people avoid planning. Wealthy individuals train emotional neutrality around money. They do not celebrate too early, panic too fast, attach identity to outcomes, chase validation through spending. They treat money like a tool, not a scorecard. This emotional distance allows clarity, and clarity creates better decisions. The quiet power of financial self-trust. The ultimate goal is not money. It is trust in yourself. Trust that you can recover from mistakes. You can learn what you don't know. You can adapt to change. You can make calm decisions under pressure. People without self-trust cling to money. People with self-trust deploy money. Wealth flows toward those who trust their judgment, because they don't freeze when uncertainty appears. What is shifting inside you right now? As you listen, something subtle is happening. You are no longer thinking about money as something external. You are seeing it as a reflection of internal systems. This shift matters, because once you understand that wealth is psychological before it is practical, you stop chasing hacks and start building foundations. And foundations hold weight. Childhood conditioning, where your money story was written. Long before you earned your first dollar, your relationship with money was already formed. You did not choose it. You absorbed it. Children do not learn about money through lectures. They learn through emotional observation, through tone of voice, through stress in the room, through silence, through what was avoided, through what caused arguments, through what was celebrated, through what was feared. If money caused tension in your home, your nervous system learned that money equals danger. If money was never discussed, your mind learned avoidance. If money was used as control, you learned power dynamics. If money was always scarce, you learned survival mode. These lessons did not stay in childhood. They became default settings. The silent rules you internalized. Every household has unspoken money rules. Rules like, don't ask about money. You should be grateful for whatever you get. Rich people are different from us. Playing it safe is smart. Money causes problems. No one had to say these out loud. You felt them. And the brain treats emotional learning as truth. So now, as an adult, when opportunity appears, something inside you hesitates. When growth requires risk, something tightens. When long-term planning demands discipline, something resists. That something is not laziness. It is loyalty to old programming. Why awareness alone is not enough. Many people discover their money trauma and stop there. They say, "That's why I'm like this. That explains it. I was conditioned." And then nothing changes. Awareness without rewiring keeps patterns intact. The brain does not change through insight alone. It changes through repeated emotional experience. That means acting differently before it feels comfortable. Making calm decisions while discomfort exists. Repeating discipline until it becomes identity. Training new emotional responses to money. This is not easy, but it is how transformation happens. Self-worth and income ceilings. One of the most uncomfortable truths about money is this. People rarely earn more than they believe they deserve. Self-worth sets an invisible ceiling. If you subconsciously believe, "I'm not that capable. I'm not good with money. People like me don't reach that level." Success changes people. Wealth brings judgment. You will self-correct back to a familiar level, even after breakthroughs. You might quit too early, underprice your value, overspend to relieve discomfort, avoid scaling, create chaos when stability appears. This is not self-sabotage out of stupidity. It is self-protection of identity. Your brain prefers a painful familiar identity over an unfamiliar empowered one. Why discipline fails without identity change. Most people try to build wealth using willpower. They say, "I'll try harder. I just need more discipline. I'll force myself." Willpower works short-term. Identity works permanently. If you see yourself as someone who is inconsistent, struggles with money, always starts but never finishes, is bad at long-term planning, no amount of motivation will override that self-image. Every action you take either reinforces or challenges identity. Wealth is built when your actions say, "I am someone who follows through. I am someone who plans. I am someone who thinks long-term. I am someone who manages emotions under pressure." Over time, behavior reshapes belief. Belief reshapes outcomes. Emotional triggers that control financial behavior. Certain emotions have disproportionate power over money decisions. Fear creates avoidance. Shame creates silence. Envy creates reckless spending. Pride creates resistance to learning. Guilt creates overgiving. If these emotions are not addressed, they will control financial outcomes no matter how smart you are. Wealthy individuals feel these emotions too. They simply do not let them drive decisions. They create systems that function even when emotions fluctuate. The difference between control and suppression. Many people misunderstand emotional control. They think it means suppressing feelings. Suppression fails. True emotional mastery means acknowledging emotion, naming it, creating space between feeling and action, choosing behavior deliberately. You can feel fear and still invest. You can feel doubt and still plan. You can feel temptation and still save. Freedom is not the absence of emotion. It is the absence of emotional obedience. Why consistency is psychological, not motivational. Consistency is often framed as a motivation problem. It is not. Consistency is an identity problem. When actions align with self-image, consistency feels natural. When actions conflict with self-image, resistance appears. That's why some people brush their teeth without motivation but struggle to save money. One behavior is part of identity. The other is not, yet. Your job is not to force consistency. It is to become the kind of person for whom consistency is normal. Rewriting the internal narrative. You do not change your money life by yelling affirmations at the mirror. You change it by making small promises and keeping them. Choosing delayed reward repeatedly. Acting calmly during discomfort. Building evidence of reliability with yourself. Each kept promise rewires trust. Each disciplined action reshapes identity. Over time, the internal narrative shifts from "I try" to "I do." Why financial freedom feels uncomfortable at first. Growth feels wrong before it feels right. When you move toward wealth, your nervous system reacts because it is leaving familiar territory. This discomfort does not mean danger. It means expansion. Those who quit interpret discomfort as a warning. Those who build wealth interpret it as a sign of progress. The difference is understanding what you are becoming aware of. At this stage, something deeper is happening. You are seeing that money is not a math problem. It is an emotional, psychological, and identity-based system. Once this is clear, shallow advice loses power over you. You stop chasing hacks. You start building foundations. And foundations carry weight. Decision-making under pressure, where wealth is actually won or lost. Money is rarely lost because of lack of opportunity. It is lost because of poor decisions made under pressure. Pressure compresses thinking. It narrows focus. It pushes the brain toward familiarity, speed, and emotional relief. When pressure is high, the mind stops asking, "What is optimal?" and starts asking, What makes this feeling stop? This is where most financial damage happens. Bills pile up. Expectations rise. Comparison intensifies. Fear of missing out creeps in. And suddenly decisions are no longer strategic. They are emotional reactions disguised as logic. Wealthy individuals are not immune to pressure. They are trained inside pressure. They expect it. They prepare for it. They slow down when others rush. Why urgency is the enemy of wealth? Urgency feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels decisive. But urgency is often fear wearing a mask. Urgent decisions prioritize speed over quality. Urgent decisions prioritize relief over leverage. Urgent decisions prioritize short-term outcomes over long-term positioning. Scarcity-trained minds equate speed with safety. Wealth-trained minds equate patience with power. When you feel rushed, it is a signal, not to act faster, but to pause. The calm decision-maker almost always outperforms the reactive one over time. Comfort versus leverage, the choice that shapes financial destiny. Most people choose comfort without realizing it. Comfort looks like guaranteed income, familiar routines, predictable outcomes, avoiding embarrassment, avoiding learning curves. Leverage looks like skill development, long-term positioning, systems that compound, delayed gratification, temporary discomfort. Comfort pays today. Leverage pays forever. The problem is that leverage feels risky before it feels rewarding. Comfort feels safe now, and expensive later. Why the brain rejects long-term thinking. Your brain evolved to survive immediate threats, not to build multi-decade financial systems. It prioritizes immediate reward, energy conservation, familiar patterns, social acceptance. Long-term thinking violates all four. Saving money feels like loss. Investing feels uncertain. Learning feels effortful. Standing apart feels uncomfortable. So the brain resists, not because wealth building is wrong, but because it is new. This resistance is biological, not personal. Understanding this removes self-blame and replaces it with strategy. Delayed gratification is a skill, not a personality trait. People often believe delayed gratification is something you either have or don't. That's false. Delayed gratification is trained through exposure. Each time you choose not to spend impulsively, stick to a plan while discomfort exists, wait instead of rushing, invest instead of consuming, you strengthen the neural pathway for patience. Over time, waiting becomes normal. Impulse weakens. Strategic thinking strengthens. This is how wealthy habits feel, natural, to those who have them. They were trained, not born. Risk. Why most people misunderstand it completely. Most people think risk is something to avoid. Wealthy thinkers understand that risk cannot be eliminated, only chosen. There is risk in investing. There is risk in not investing. There is risk in starting a business. There is risk in depending on one income stream. There is risk in learning. There is risk in staying ignorant. The question is never, is this risky? The question is, which risk compounds in my favor? Avoiding risk entirely guarantees stagnation. Choosing intelligent risk creates growth. The emotional cost of playing it safe. Playing it safe feels responsible. But safety has a hidden cost. Missed opportunities. Skill stagnation. Income ceilings. Dependence on external systems. Over time, safe decisions accumulate regret. Wealthy individuals understand that discomfort today often prevents pain tomorrow. They willingly absorb temporary instability, learning stress, uncertainty, delayed reward. Because they are building control. And control is the real luxury. Decision fatigue and financial mistakes. Poor financial decisions are often made when the mind is exhausted. Decision fatigue lowers impulse control. It increases emotional spending. It reduces long-term thinking. That's why wealthy individuals automate saving, investing, bill payments, long-term contributions. Automation removes emotion from decisions. Emotion is where mistakes happen. Structure beats motivation. Systems beat willpower. The role of identity in high-stakes choices. When pressure hits, you do not rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. If your identity is, I'm careful. I don't take risks. I'm not good with money. I play it safe. Your decisions will reflect that, regardless of knowledge. Changing outcomes requires changing identity. Identity shifts through repeated behavior, not inspiration. Calm is a competitive advantage. In markets, in business, in life, calm wins. Calm allows clear assessment, rational evaluation, strategic patience, emotional regulation. Panic destroys value. Excitement creates bubbles. Fear creates losses. The calm thinker buys when others hesitate. The calm thinker waits when others rush. The calm thinker builds quietly while others react loudly. Calm is not passive. It is powerful. What is quietly rewiring inside you? At this point, your relationship with decisions is changing. You are no longer asking, what feels right now? You are beginning to ask, what aligns with the future I'm building? This shift separates consumers from builders, reactors from architects, earners from owners. And once this shift begins, it does not reverse. Self-control and the economics of temptation. Most people underestimate the cost of small, repeated impulses. Every minor indulgence may feel insignificant, but cumulatively, these choices create invisible financial drains. Consider this: daily coffee shop purchases, occasional impulse buys, unnecessary subscriptions, or instant gratification purchases. Each seems harmless. Each seems minor. Yet over years, they can amount to tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars lost in opportunity cost. This is not just a numbers game. It is a psychological game. Your brain prioritizes reward over long-term gain. Instant pleasure feels safer and more tangible than future security. It whispers, you deserve this now. You earned it. You need it to feel good. Wealthy individuals understand that freedom is earned by delaying desire, not giving into it. They train their emotional responses to temptation. They experience the discomfort of waiting without panic. They normalize patience. Over time, this ability compounds far more than income alone. Status spending, the silent wealth killer. Humans are social creatures. Status is hardwired into the psyche. Social approval, admiration, and perceived success drive many of our financial decisions unconsciously. This is why people buy cars, clothes, gadgets, or experiences not for utility, but for appearance. Status spending creates two problems. It distracts from real growth. Money is spent outwardly to signal wealth instead of inwardly to create wealth. It reinforces scarcity thinking. When self-worth is tied to external validation, fear of judgment drives spending, not strategy. Wealthy people separate identity from possessions. They understand that real influence and security do not require validation. They invest in assets that grow over time, not in symbols that depreciate or inflate ego temporarily. Comparison psychology, the subtle enemy. Comparing yourself to others is not just a habit, it is a psychological trap. Social media, peers, and cultural narratives constantly feed comparisons. Someone drives a nicer car, someone earns more, someone vacations luxuriously. Your mind instinctively evaluates yourself relative to others. This mechanism is ancient. Humans survive by monitoring status and social positioning. In modern financial life, it becomes a silent enemy. Comparison fuels unnecessary spending, frustration, and envy. To master wealth, you must detach self-esteem from relative appearance. Real financial power grows in private. Quiet discipline compounds without applause. The role of identity in spending and saving. Your money identity governs whether you save, invest, or spend. This identity is formed from childhood, reinforced by social conditioning, and activated during high-stakes decisions. When you act contrary to your identity, guilt, anxiety, or panic emerges. This is why people fail at budgeting or long-term planning despite knowing the benefits. Rewriting identity is not motivational fluff. It is deliberate practice. Make small decisions consistent with desired identity. Repeat until automatic. Gradually expand the scope of identity-aligned behavior. Example: someone who views themselves as a saver will feel natural satisfaction watching investments grow. Someone without that identity will feel resistance, even if logic dictates the same choice. Wealth habits are invisible. Most wealth-building actions are invisible. They do not impress peers. They do not provide instant gratification. They require patience, consistency, and sometimes monotony. This is why most people fail. They prioritize visibility over results. The world rewards flashiness socially, not financially. Paying yourself first. Automating investments. Negotiating salary strategically. Learning skills quietly. Avoiding lifestyle inflation. These actions rarely generate attention, but they generate results. Over years, they create compounding wealth while others remain trapped chasing recognition and short-term satisfaction. Psychological ownership of future self. Wealthy people think of money as a tool to serve their future self, not to entertain their present self. Immediate pleasure costs the future. Deferred reward compounds power. This requires a mental shift, envisioning your future self as deserving of care, respect, and provision. Your current self becomes the steward, not the owner. Decisions are made with the future self in mind. Every investment in patience is a vote of confidence in your future self. Every delayed gratification strengthens neural pathways that automate long-term thinking. Building emotional resilience against market noise. Financial life is unpredictable. Markets fluctuate. Businesses fail. Jobs end. Investments underperform. The emotional response to these realities separates wealthy individuals from others. Resilience is learned through exposure and reflection. Key strategies include: viewing volatility as information, not threat. Detaching self-worth from portfolio value. Using losses as lessons, not labels. Maintaining calm and decision-making under pressure. Emotional resilience ensures that opportunities are seized while others panic, and losses are managed without crisis. Systems over willpower. Willpower is limited. Systems are unlimited. Most financial failures occur not because of ignorance but because human willpower fails under repeated stress. Wealthy people design systems to bypass constant decision-making. Automatic contributions to retirement. Scheduled investment purchases. Predefined spending rules. Financial dashboards to monitor progress. These systems reduce emotional interference. They convert discipline into default behavior. And default behavior compounds far more than effortful action. Compounding wealth in thought and action. Compounding is not just a financial principle, it is a psychological principle. Habits compound. Knowledge compounds. Reputation compounds. Emotional control compounds. Every small, identity-aligned choice accumulates interest over time. Wealth is not built by a single massive decision. It is built by thousands of deliberate, consistent choices repeated under varying emotional states. The truly wealthy are often invisible while building quietly, compounding in thought, behavior, and action, until the effects become undeniable. Why most financial advice fails. Most advice fails because it addresses tactics without addressing psychology. Telling someone to invest without addressing fear results in inactivity. Telling someone to budget without addressing identity results in inconsistency. Investment psychology, the mind before the money. Most people think investing is about numbers. In reality, investing is primarily psychological. Before you ever place $1, your mind will evaluate risk, fear, and identity alignment. The outcomes of investments are determined not just by market conditions, but by your emotional state when decisions are made. This is why two people can make identical investments and experience vastly different results. One panics and sells. The other stays calm and benefits from compounding. Investment psychology is built on self-awareness, emotional discipline, and identity congruence. Without these, even the most profitable strategies fail. Understanding risk versus perceived risk. Humans often confuse risk with fear. Fear feels immediate and urgent. Risk is objective and calculable. Risk is a neutral factor. Fear is the emotional reaction to risk. Most people avoid investing because they let fear dominate. They see potential losses and react with panic instead of rational evaluation. Wealthy individuals see risk differently. They ask, "What is the worst-case scenario, and can I survive it? What happens if I am wrong? Does the potential upside justify the exposure?" By separating emotion from calculation, they make decisions few dare to make, and over time, the rewards compound exponentially. The emotional trap of volatility. Markets are inherently volatile. Human brains are wired to dislike uncertainty. This creates a psychological trap for most investors. When prices drop, fear spikes. When prices rise rapidly, greed spikes. These emotional responses create timing mistakes, buying high, selling low, and reacting instead of strategizing. Wealthy investors accept volatility as a friend, not an enemy. They understand that temporary fluctuations are inevitable and that long-term vision surpasses short-term discomfort. Emotional neutrality is the single most powerful skill in financial markets. Compounding interest, beyond the numbers. People often underestimate compounding because they focus on money, not psychology. Compounding is more than financial, it is behavioral. Compounding habits, small daily actions repeated over years. Compounding knowledge, continuous learning that increases decision-making ability. Compounding discipline, repeated acts of self-control reinforcing identity. Compounding relationships, networks and partnerships that grow influence over time. Wealth is less about making one perfect decision and more about creating structures and habits that grow silently over time. How wealthy minds perceive loss. Loss is inevitable. Every financial journey encounters failure. Ordinary minds see loss as catastrophe. Wealthy minds see loss as feedback. They evaluate. What caused the loss? What can be learned? How can the system be adjusted to prevent recurrence? The wealthy accept small controlled losses as the cost of learning and compounding future gains. Fear of loss paralyzes. Knowledge of loss as information empowers. Delayed gratification in practice. Delayed gratification is central to building sustainable wealth. It is not just about saving money, it is about building patience in every decision. Investing for decades, not weeks. Building skills that take years to master. Cultivating relationships that pay dividends over decades. Avoiding lifestyle inflation despite growing income. Delayed gratification trains identity. It transforms short-term impulses into long-term vision. Lifestyle inflation, the silent wealth killer. As income rises, many individuals unconsciously expand spending proportionally. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly sabotages wealth. The wealthy avoid this trap by aligning lifestyle with long-term goals, not immediate ego gratification. They may increase comfort strategically, but they rarely allow status, peer pressure, or impulses to dictate spending. Instead, they prioritize assets that appreciate, skills that generate future income, investments that compound, freedom over perception. By controlling lifestyle expansion, they maintain leverage over resources, rather than becoming enslaved to them. Identity alignment, the foundation of all financial decisions. Your identity determines your actions under pressure. When faced with a choice between saving and spending, investing or hoarding, risk or safety, your self-image decides. People who see themselves as disciplined automatically choose options that build wealth. People who see themselves as consumers default to short-term gratification. Changing behavior without changing identity is temporary. Changing identity changes behavior permanently. Every dollar you earn interacts with your internal self-image. Spend, save, or invest accordingly. The psychology of ownership. Ownership changes behavior. When you feel personally responsible for your future, you treat decisions differently. You plan longer term. You tolerate temporary discomfort. You absorb small losses as lessons. You prioritize compounding over immediate pleasure. Wealthy individuals do not work for money. They empower their future self to work through them. This psychological shift transforms ordinary earners into builders. Building systems for automatic discipline. Discipline is limited if left to willpower. Systems convert behavior into automatic action. Examples: automatic contributions to investment accounts, predefined rules for spending limits, scheduled review of financial goals, routine education on markets and personal finance. These systems bypass emotional reactivity. They lock in long-term behavior. Wealth is psychological first, practical second. Before spreadsheets, before assets, before investments, wealth exists in the mind. Mindsets dictate risk tolerance. Mindsets dictate delayed gratification. Mindsets dictate consistency. Mindsets dictate emotional regulation. Without mastering the inner game, practical strategies fail. Wealthy minds align thinking, emotion, identity, and action before they execute any strategy, becoming unshakable under pressure. Life will test you. Investments fluctuate. Opportunities appear and disappear. Relationships and networks challenge your decisions. The wealthy anticipate these tests and develop psychological immunity. Calm in uncertainty. Clarity in complexity. Patience in chaos. Strategic action under stress. Without this, wealth is fragile. With this, wealth compounds relentlessly. The mental architecture of wealth. Wealth is not just a collection of assets. It is a mindset, a structure, and a set of internalized patterns. Every decision, habit, and action is filtered through your mental framework. This architecture determines how effectively opportunities are identified, risks are managed, and gains are preserved. The wealthy invest in mental architecture before investing in markets. They build cognitive resilience, emotional control, and identity alignment first. Without this internal foundation, even the best financial strategies crumble under pressure. Your mind is the primary asset. Money amplifies what your mind already creates. Poor mental structures lead to squandered opportunities, while strong structures allow wealth to multiply silently and consistently. The invisible power of perception. Perception is everything in financial life. Most people make financial decisions based on what they see superficially. Friends buying luxury items, market news and trending opinions, peer pressure and societal expectations. This leads to reactive decisions rather than strategic ones. Wealthy individuals focus on reality under uncertainty rather than appearance. They ask, what is truly valuable? What is the underlying trend? What does the math say, independent of emotion? How does this decision serve my future self? Perception filters influence, fear, and noise. It transforms reaction into strategy. Leverage, psychological, social, and financial. Leverage is a concept most people misunderstand. They think of it as borrowing money or using resources. In reality, leverage is any mechanism that allows small inputs to generate disproportionately large outputs. There are 3 key types. Psychological leverage, mental frameworks that amplify decision-making. Patience, delayed gratification, and emotional control create long-term compounding results. Social leverage, networks, mentorship, and partnerships that magnify opportunity. A single connection can create access to deals, insights, or investments that would take years to discover alone. Financial leverage, using capital wisely to create exponential growth, whether through investment, business ownership, or scaling assets. The wealthy understand leverage in all dimensions. They stack them together to create momentum that ordinary earners cannot replicate. The psychology of compounding habits. Compounding is rarely understood as more than a financial term. In truth, behavior, habits, and identity compound just as effectively as money. Reading consistently compounds knowledge. Daily planning compounds efficiency. Emotional training compounds resilience. Small, repeated investments compound into massive portfolios. The exponential effect is invisible at first. Results often appear delayed. Ordinary minds mistake delayed results for failure. Wealthy minds understand time magnifies consistent action. Every repeated behavior aligned with identity is a vote for future abundance. Risk management as a psychological skill. Risk is unavoidable, but fear-driven avoidance is optional. Most people react to risk emotionally. They see worst-case scenarios, panic, and withdraw. Wealthy individuals treat risk as information, not threat. They calculate probability of success, magnitude of potential loss, potential upside and compounding, personal capacity to recover from setbacks. By removing emotion from risk assessment, they turn volatility into opportunity. Fear becomes a signal, not a barrier. Emotional neutrality, the most overlooked wealth skill. Money triggers emotions that are evolutionary in origin: fear, greed, pride, shame. Left unchecked, these emotions drive poor decisions. Emotional neutrality is the ability to experience these feelings without acting on them impulsively. It is not suppression, it is deliberate detachment. Neutrality allows calm evaluation of opportunities, strategic patience in high-stakes environments, avoidance of overreaction during losses, confidence in consistent, long-term decisions. Without this skill, intelligence, discipline, and strategy are wasted. With it, wealth compounds almost automatically. Identity and long-term decision-making. Every financial choice is filtered through identity. Your internal self-image decides whether you save or spend, invest or avoid, take calculated risks or cling to comfort, delay gratification or succumb to impulse. Changing identity is the lever that transforms behavior permanently. Small habits align your identity with wealth over time. Every consistent action reinforces who you believe you are. Wealthy people act first, identity shifts second. Eventually, behavior and identity merge. At this point, long-term decision-making becomes effortless. Opportunity recognition, a mindset. Most people miss opportunities because they filter life through scarcity and fear. The wealthy filter through patience, pattern recognition, long-term perspective, emotional resilience. Opportunities often appear disguised as risk, discomfort, or uncertainty. Without the mindset to recognize potential where others see danger, wealth creation remains inaccessible. Opportunity is abundant, but only visible to those trained to see it without panic. The role of strategic patience. Patience is often mischaracterized as passive waiting. True patience is active observation and disciplined preparation. Waiting for the right moment. Preparing skills while the world rushes. Positioning capital for compounding opportunities. Avoiding impulsive reactions to market noise or social pressure. Strategic patience transforms small decisions into exponential results over time. Money as a reflection of character. Money does not just measure results. It reveals character under pressure. How you handle temptation. How you respond to scarcity. How you act when rewarded. How you behave when stressed. Wealth amplifies these traits. Poor habits create amplified problems. Good habits create compounding advantage. The wealthy design their character first. Money becomes a byproduct of aligned thinking, disciplined action, and emotional mastery. Mastering the inner game before the outer game. All financial tools, systems, and opportunities are secondary to mastery of the inner game. Mental frameworks. Emotional resilience. Identity alignment. Strategic patience. Risk management. These internal structures allow the external world, investments, businesses, assets, to grow efficiently. Without internal mastery, external tools collapse under pressure. With mastery, opportunities multiply, mistakes are minimized, and wealth becomes inevitable. Quiet power, the hidden edge. Most people measure wealth by visibility, cars, houses, vacations. True wealth is quiet. Decisions made calmly. Systems that function automatically. Networks leveraged strategically. Actions aligned with identity. Compounding over decades. Visible wealth fades. Quiet wealth grows. And those who understand this principle operate far above the noise of reactive consumption. The inner architecture of abundance. Wealth begins as a mental structure, not a bank balance. Most people pursue money externally while ignoring the psychological foundation that dictates behavior. Without a robust inner architecture, even high income or sudden windfalls are wasted. The inner architecture consists of identity alignment, seeing yourself as someone who builds and preserves wealth. Emotional resilience, staying calm under stress and uncertainty. Cognitive flexibility, adapting strategies to new information without fear. Delayed gratification mastery, prioritizing long-term value over immediate pleasure. Systems thinking, designing habits, finances, and networks that compound automatically. When these systems are established internally, external wealth becomes predictable, repeatable, and sustainable. Emotional mastery, why most wealth strategies fail. Wealthy behavior requires consistent action under pressure. Emotional reactivity is the primary reason most financial strategies fail. Common emotional traps include fear of missing out, driving impulsive investments. Panic selling, liquidating positions during short-term market dips. Overconfidence, overleveraging or underestimating risk. Shame or guilt, causing avoidance of necessary action or financial conversations. Ego-driven spending, using money for validation rather than value. Emotional mastery does not eliminate feelings. It creates distance between feelings and actions, allowing you to act rationally despite fear, desire, or uncertainty. Abundance versus scarcity, the hidden psychological divide. Scarcity thinking focuses on lack, limitation, and urgency. It creates reactive decisions and financial stagnation. Abundance thinking, by contrast, is strategically expansive, viewing money as a tool, not a trophy. Seeing opportunity where others see risk. Aligning action with long-term growth rather than short-term comfort. Trusting systems to generate compounding outcomes. Wealthy minds operate within an abundance framework, not blindly optimistic, but structured, disciplined, and patient. Compounding beyond finance, knowledge, and skills. Money is only one dimension of compounding. Wealthy individuals understand skill compounding. Learning high-value skills multiplies earning potential. Knowledge accelerates decision-making and reduces mistakes. Expertise compounds over years to create leverage in career, investments, and business. Each skill learned and each insight gained functions like an invisible asset, producing returns exponentially over decades. Multiple streams of compounding income. True wealth is rarely built on a single income source. It comes from multiple compounding streams. Active income, earnings from work or business. Passive income, systems generating revenue without direct ongoing effort. Investment income, returns from assets, stocks, bonds, or real estate. Intellectual property, ideas, products, or creations that generate residual value. Network leverage, relationships and partnerships creating opportunities and returns. The wealthy strategically diversify not only their assets but their psychological focus and decision-making energy across these streams. Risk tolerance versus risk perception. Wealth is not about avoiding risk. It is about understanding and choosing risk wisely. Risk tolerance is the internal capacity to endure temporary losses or uncertainty. Risk perception is often distorted by emotion, social comparison, or past trauma. Wealthy minds train themselves to calibrate risk rationally, leveraging opportunity while minimizing catastrophic outcomes. The psychology of decision-making under complexity. Wealth creation often occurs in situations of uncertainty and complexity. Decisions involve incomplete information, multiple variables, and high stakes. Most people react emotionally, overanalyzing or freezing. The wealthy simplify decisions by focusing on high-leverage factors. Accept that some uncertainty is unavoidable. Use systems and frameworks to make repeatable, high-quality choices. Avoid distractions that cloud judgment. High-quality decision-making is rarely intuitive. It is trained through experience, reflection, and repetition. Time perspective, seeing beyond the immediate. Financial outcomes are determined more by time horizon than by intelligence or luck. Short-term thinkers prioritize immediate gratification. Chase trends. React impulsively. Long-term thinkers plan decades in advance. Accept temporary discomfort. Invest in compounding systems. Focus on identity and behavior alignment. The wealthy consistently think in decades, not weeks or months. Cognitive strategies for minimizing loss. Wealthy minds use mental frameworks to predict, mitigate, and absorb potential loss. Scenario planning, envisioning multiple outcomes and preparing for each. Contingency reserves, maintaining liquidity for emergencies. Mental rehearsals, visualizing emotional responses to financial shocks. Strategic patience, delaying action until clarity appears. Loss is inevitable. Panic is optional. These strategies allow losses to be absorbed without derailing compounding growth. Detachment from outcomes, the hidden edge. One of the most powerful psychological habits of the wealthy is detachment from specific outcomes. Detachment does not mean apathy. It means taking decisive action without being emotionally dependent on results. Focusing on repeatable processes rather than single events. Understanding that consistent behavior, not luck, drives long-term results. This creates resilience and freedom, enabling calculated risk-taking without fear. The role of mentorship and social leverage. Wealthy individuals surround themselves with guidance and insight. They leverage mentors who have already navigated challenges, peers who challenge thinking and elevate standards, communities that provide accountability and shared wisdom. This social leverage compounds over time. Connections multiply opportunity in ways that pure effort cannot achieve. Wealth as a reflection of identity, not effort. Effort alone does not create sustainable wealth. Alignment of identity and action does. Acting like someone who builds wealth. Thinking like someone who plans for decades. Feeling comfortable with delayed reward and disciplined action. Identity becomes self-reinforcing. Decisions that once felt difficult become automatic. Invisible compounding, the quiet accumulation. The richest people often appear ordinary because the compounding work they do is invisible. Reinvesting profits instead of spending. Consistently learning and applying knowledge. Refining emotional and cognitive frameworks. Maintaining discipline and small daily habits. This invisible compounding is the ultimate secret. Visible wealth is a byproduct. Quiet compounding is the foundation. Psychological mastery, the core of sustainable wealth. By this stage, it should be clear, wealth is first and foremost psychological. All external tools, investments, businesses, real estate, and assets, are only effective when your mind is structured for consistency, discipline, and strategic thinking. Psychological mastery is the ability to consistently control impulses, separate emotion from decision, align actions with identity, apply patience over long-time horizons, absorb loss without panic. Without these, the most sophisticated financial strategies collapse under pressure. With these, even modest resources compound exponentially. The emotional IQ of money. Most financial failures occur not because of ignorance but because of emotional mismanagement. Humans are wired to react emotionally to gains and losses, social comparisons, scarcity cues, market volatility. Emotional intelligence around money allows you to observe fear without succumbing, detach from market noise, make strategic decisions while others panic, convert temporary stress into long-term advantage. Wealthy individuals train emotional responses rigorously, often without conscious effort, making disciplined decision-making automatic. Identity alignment, acting like the person you want to be. Identity is the bridge between thought and action. Every financial choice is filtered through your self-image. A person who sees themselves as disciplined saves and invests. A person who sees themselves as a consumer spends impulsively. A person who sees themselves as capable tolerates short-term discomfort for long-term gain. Changing identity rewires the brain. It transforms behavior from effortful to automatic. Small, consistent behaviors gradually solidify a wealth-oriented self-image. Over time, your identity dictates choices more powerfully than willpower or motivation ever could. The compounding of knowledge and experience. Financial mastery is built not only on money but on knowledge and experience, which compound invisibly. Learning continuously increases decision-making quality. Mistakes, analyzed properly, teach systems that prevent future losses. Exposure to diverse perspectives sharpens judgment and opportunity recognition. Repeated application of principles embeds them into unconscious behavior. Each increment of knowledge and experience multiplies your capacity to make high-leverage decisions, creating compounding returns beyond mere dollars. Advanced risk management, choosing what others avoid. Wealthy individuals do not avoid risk, they choose it wisely. Risk is neutral, fear misrepresents it. Key strategies. quantifying probabilities and potential outcomes, understanding personal tolerance for loss, ensuring resources and systems are in place to survive setbacks, embracing calculated exposure where upside is magnified. By embracing risk with control, wealthy individuals access opportunities invisible to those dominated by fear. Most mistakes in financial life are the result of fear-based avoidance, not lack of skill. Strategic patience and long-term thinking. Patience is often misunderstood as passive waiting. In reality, it is active, disciplined, strategic engagement. Maintaining investments during short-term volatility. Building skills while others seek immediate gratification. Delaying consumption in favor of capital accumulation. Waiting for opportunities that align with long-term strategy. Strategic patience compounds over years, turning consistent small decisions into extraordinary outcomes. Wealth is rarely the product of luck. It is the result of repeated patient action under varying emotional states. Systems over willpower. The automation of success. Reliance on willpower alone is a common trap. Willpower is limited. Systems are infinite. Wealthy individuals design systems that enforce their principles automatically. Automated savings and investments. Predefined financial rules and spending limits. Periodic reviews of goals and metrics. Checklists and frameworks for decision-making. Systems bypass emotional interference, ensuring consistent, repeatable behavior. This automation multiplies results, creating compounding advantage over those reliant on motivation alone. Emotional detachment from outcomes. One of the most powerful psychological habits of the wealthy is detachment from specific outcomes. Detachment is not apathy, it is rational action under uncertainty. Focusing on the quality of decisions, not immediate results. Accepting short-term loss as information and feedback. Maintaining consistent behavior despite external fluctuations. Avoiding overreaction to praise or criticism. This mental framework allows wealth to grow predictably while others react impulsively to market noise, trends, or social pressure. Leveraging social and intellectual capital. Wealth is rarely built in isolation. The intelligent use of social and intellectual capital compounds opportunity. Mentors accelerate decision-making and reduce mistakes. Peers provide accountability and challenge assumptions. Networks amplify access to deals, insights, and resources. Intellectual property and ideas create residual value over time. By consciously leveraging relationships and knowledge, the wealthy achieve outcomes disproportionate to effort, compounding success far beyond individual action alone. Integrating identity, emotion, and systems. Sustainable wealth requires integration. Identity, seeing oneself as a builder of wealth. Emotion, mastering impulses, fear, and desire. Systems, automating habits and decisions for consistency. When all three align, behavior becomes effortless, disciplined, and aligned with long-term growth. Financial outcomes become a natural extension of who you are, not a constant struggle against habit or emotion. Wealth as a long-term psychological journey. Money is never just money. It is a reflection of thought patterns, emotional responses, and identity alignment. The richest individuals are those who master the invisible psychological game. Reframing fear as information. Compounding knowledge, skill, and habits. Aligning identity with long-term vision. Building systems to enforce consistent behavior. Leveraging social and intellectual capital. This psychological mastery creates freedom, resilience, and exponential financial growth. Wealth is not created in a moment but over decades of disciplined thought, deliberate action, and aligned emotion. Preparing for a lifetime of wealth creation. The ultimate lesson: wealth is a lifetime pursuit, not a sprint. Success depends on emotional resilience through uncertainty, patience in execution, identity aligned with strategic action, consistency in compounding behaviors, ability to observe, learn, and adapt continuously. By internalizing these principles, financial freedom is no longer about luck or chance. It becomes inevitable through the alignment of thought, emotion, and action over decades. Wealth, when approached with mastery of mind and emotion, compounds silently, invisibly, and continuously, creating outcomes that transcend any single decision or action.